And being an MIT student, it was great. There's all kinds of infrastructure set up, and one of the nice things is the 50K competition. A student competition, a team of students can participate, and the winning team will win $50,000 to start a business. Great. We all were very interested in the $50,000, and not so much in starting a business. We thought if the 5 of us split the 50,000, that's 10,000 for each of us, that would be very nice. So we participated, and it was all very, very exciting. Unfortunately, we didn't win. We were third. Third prize ends up was $200 to go and have some beer. And so we were sitting over our drinks, being very disappointed about the outcome of the competition. But one thing that happened is that in the audience were venture capitalists. And they said, we like your technical idea. You are a global supercomputer, makes sense. But your business idea, how you think you're going to make it, turn it into a business, makes no sense whatsoever. Because our idea was to sell it to networks, to sell it to telecoms, and help them be more efficient. Because that seemed the obvious thing. They have their networks, they're inefficient, we're going to come and help them make it more efficient. And we very, very quickly had the former head of IBM Asia, George Conrades, was consulting with us, a media expert, when Paul Sagan consulted with us, and they said, no, no, no. You have to think of whose problem are you solving. You are solving the problem of people that want to get content out. To the networks, all this content is just a nuisance. They don't want it to work better. It works fine. They're getting paid. They're not going to make more money if they do it better. But CNN, back in the day, they had a big problem because their sites would get overloaded and wouldn't work when it was most important. When the big news events would hit, CNN would not be available. So that was a huge problem. CNN was happy to be our customer, and they were one of the first customers to solve that problem for them. Make sure CNN stayed up when it was mission critical for them. So the 50K competition, then summer, winter 98, all those ideas came together. We had a team. George Conrades agreed to be our first CEO. Paul Sagan became our first president. And we now had a combination of business people, technical people. We had initial funding. And then another very magical thing happened. So very quickly, spring 99, we got live. And you probably, it's not hard to explain that by that short time, we didn't have a global supercomputer. We had a few distributed servers. And on those, we could do very basic services. We could, what's called object delivery. Let me explain what that is. So you have this global supercomputer, an end user, and then they make a request, and I'm not going to go into technical details, but it's the slide that if anyone is interested, I'm sure these become available later on. We send them to the closest server to them. So if you are in Tokyo on NTT connectivity, we'll send you to a server, NTT in Tokyo. If you are on KDDI, we'll send you to a KDDI server. That way you have very, very big pipe. We can deliver it in very, very short latency and very high throughput. And the first thing we did in object caching was we delivered this part of Yahoo. One of the first things we did, a very small piece, but very, very exciting. And having Yahoo as a customer very quickly led to a lot of other .coms becoming our customer. We did movie trailers for Apple. Steve Jobs would broadcast his keynotes over our network. Very, very exciting times. And it allowed us to actually take advantage of that bubble that was back in '99. You might remember slight overinflation of .com stocks. We were part of that. And we managed to do an IPO. So back in '99, we did an IPO and raised a lot of cash. We got over $100 million out of the IPO, and we invested that to actually build a global platform. So that's back in '99. It was one of those magic moments, and I think that's another thing for many startups to be successful. There's something that breaks for them in a very big way. And for us, it was getting enough capital to get global before it became impossible to get that amount of money. Because our model only works if you are in every network. So within 6 months after the IPO, we had this massive, massive project of getting servers into as many networks as possible. We would, in 1 month, deploy into 500 different networks. And we're a relatively small company at the time. And that was all made possible by the bubble. So I'm actually I would speculate that Akamai would not exist if we did not have the .com bubble. What goes up must come down. So from 01 to 03, remember I said all our customers were .coms. They all went out of business. Our revenue disappeared. And our stock might have been slightly overinflated. We had $6 million in revenue, and our market cap was $35 billion. And the stock went from 340, we were front page Wall Street Journal, biggest IPO in '99. And the stock dropped 99.9%. We were left for dead. Bubble burst for us meant we had 3 months of cash to live. We had this great asset out there, but we had no cash flow, we had no money, we had no business, we had no customers. If you talk about tough, that was tough. We essentially fired everyone from the company. We went from 1,500 people down to 450. We built. And it wasn't this type of business. This business is still known as CDN, but it's actually a small fraction of what we do. There's now many companies that do that as a business. Most of our revenue comes from what we call dynamic sites, pages that are not static, not the images, but from things like Facebook, where you have a completely personalized experience, shopping sites. Almost all online shopping in the US and most of online shopping outside the US now runs over this platform because of this evolution of the basic idea. So, and again, I'm going to go a little bit technical. If you are doing a business, you have to actually solve a real world problem. You have to have something that isn't just putting a new twist on something and try to then sell it. You have to fundamentally solve a problem. And for us, the problem we solved was, how do I take something that is completely dynamic, I can't store it somewhere else, I need to actually transport it over long distance and make it work fast. Because for retail sites, the faster they are, the more revenue they produce. It's a very direct correlation. People just stay longer, they shop more, the faster the site is. There's been years and years of research of why that might be. There's been a PhD thesis in psychology over why people shop more and the site is fast. Our luck is that that's the case. People respond that way. And the way we solve it is that we have our own protocol that doesn't use internet standards. So because we have servers everywhere, we do not have to do what everyone else does. We can actually change it completely and have our servers do their own thing. And here's one of the basic things we do. You see in the upper left corner is a basic website that is dynamically created. It says, welcome to your name. It says here's your shopping recommendations. So it has to come from what we call the origin, from the customer side, because they have the database, they know who you are. And in a typical system, that would flow out into the browser, and the objects then get downloaded next. What we can do is actually do a couple of things. One is we can use different routes to go back. A very big example of where that matters is, you remember the earthquake in Taiwan 2 years ago, where a lot of the cables were cut from Taiwan back to the US? If you followed normal internet, you were completely cut off. For several days, most internet connectivity in Taiwan and the US was completely unavailable. If you used the Akamai system, we would just route to Japan and everything was fine. So our customers didn't even realize that there was that problem with the system, took care of it. So we actually don't follow standard internet routing. The next thing we do, and this is the trickiest one, so you have to be very careful what happens here. So you have a website in the upper left corner that I'm trying to get to the end user in the lower right corner. When the request comes, while we're sending the basic website, we're already fetching all the embedded objects so that when the request comes from the browser, they're already there. So by changing the flow of traffic, that's how we can get dynamic sites very, very fast. And I know I've gone super deep. If you're not an engineer, this is probably not that exciting to you. But that's the basic Akamai idea. It's a small idea of getting changes in how the internet works on a global scale that has built our business. Now this is used by almost every airline on the planet. If you're buying airline tickets, you're going through the system. We sold Cathay Pacific relatively early on. We sold Singapore Airlines early on. Their ticket sale jumped up. They could show that they can actually have a major channel of selling tickets direct online and not going through travel agents. Their business improved. Everyone else wanted it too, and they all became our customers. As I already said, most of the online shopping runs through this platform. All the brands you know, this is Best Buy in Japan, it's Rakuten, it's Nissan, they're all our customers. Social media. This is an older slide because in 2006 when we launched, MySpace was big. Now Facebook is also using it. If you do an online search, you're almost surely going through that platform. If you are touching the internet, you are going through this platform. So we did the application accelerator and dynamic site accelerator, and those got us out of our hole. So the Akamai Cloud, and I'm not typically using that word because the term cloud was invented years and years after we built our system. It was invented way before the term cloud existed. So I said, we are the largest distributed platform in the world, 71 countries. We have started in the US, so the US is our #1 market, with the US military uses us. Online retailers, if you're downloading antivirus, it comes from us. Japan is our #2 market now. We have a very strong presence here. We have an office in Tokyo, we have an office in Osaka. And 15 to 25% of all global web traffic is delivered by this platform. If you go to Apple, if you have an iPhone, that comes through that. If you are getting video on an Android device from Samsung, almost surely comes from us. All those cool things that you probably use every day are actually enabled by this platform. We have 10 million transactions with the system per second.